All right, welcome back, Be Better Tribe. This is your host, Julian Alvarez. And again, this is the podcast where we explore leadership journeys, stories, lessons, books, articles, things that I've read or people that I've interviewed read that can help us live a slightly better life or make us happier and just help us on our journey. There's so much nuance to that. There's so much to it. But again, I really enjoyed doing these first 32 episodes. I've connected with a lot of individuals that I haven't connected with in a really long time, as well as new individuals that I had a small connection with, but found that their story was worth sharing and they took the time to share it with me. And so I thought it would be beneficial to have those individuals on the podcast. So before I welcome in the next interview that I had, I wanted to go ahead and reference the last episode that I actually recorded, which was Never Miss Twice. And I got to say that I've been so bad with my habits. I went on vacation. I didn't stick to what I wanted to do. I made choices that weren't going to be conducive of me doing the habits, like having, an extra cocktail or an extra beer. And really, that's really pushed me away from me hitting those habits every day. So it's a good reminder that even though I do the podcast, even though I try to read that material, it's still hard. But I'm committed to trying to get back on track to really run that marathon this year. And luckily enough, I checked the Santa Cruz Marathon, which is the first time they're doing this. It's on October 25th. I wanted to sign up for this a long time ago, and I had it on my to-do list. And I checked maybe 3 months ago, and it was sold out. And then I checked again a month and a half ago, and it was sold out. And luckily for me, I checked today and there was availability for me to register for the marathon. Now, this is a bit crazy. The marathon is on October 25th. I'm going to be 40, slightly before that. And it doesn't give me much time to train, but I'm going to go for it. I told myself that I was going to do it, and what better year to do it than this one? So October 25th, I hope that this podcast and me putting it out there will help me actually get this done. But, we'll see what happens, but that's my commitment. I'm going to be using the habit tracker that I created. You can visit bebettertribe.com and grab that habit tracker if you'd like. It's helped me. Hopefully it'll help me get ready for the marathon. Also, there's some gear on there, the crew neck, a couple shirts. I'm going to actually be posting a hat here this week. So if you want to check that out, please do. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to be welcoming Matt Roberts on. He's a graduate of UC Santa Barbara. I went to Cal Poly, bit of a fun rivalry there. But he's been in sales dev for a really long time. He had a non-traditional sales background, got into sales dev leadership quickly. And how I met him is I actually joined a podcast that he is a co-host on. It's called the the Outbound Leadership Podcast. I joined maybe 6 months ago, and it was really fun recording that. We stayed in touch, and I felt like it would be a great opportunity to have him go ahead and visit the Be Better Tribe podcast. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and welcome in Matt Roberts. All right, welcome back, Be Better Tribe. As promised, I have an awesome sales dev leader, Matt Roberts. Not only has Matt been in sales dev for, the past decade, he also is the co-host of the Shelf Outbound Leadership Podcast that I joined, a couple months back. And I really enjoyed that conversation, Matt. I enjoyed your perspective on leadership. And really, I want to just have you part of this podcast is sharing knowledge, sharing what you look for in top talent and what you've really seen in top talent. So without further ado, thanks so much for joining the podcast.
Yeah. Hey, Julian, pumped. I think when we spoke, you said you were going to start a podcast. And then it was like a week later, you had dropped an episode, and now you've been dropping them nonstop, and I get to follow along. So appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, and, man. Then we must have, thank you. I appreciate that. We must have connected in late 2025, which it seems like it's flown by. I can't believe it's already the middle of the year. But I had another kid during this year, so I got 3 boys, and maybe that's why my calendar is a little bit mixed up here.
Congratulations.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. So Matt, the first question I always like to ask is, you've obviously gone from an individual contributor to a leader. You found yourself in tech sales, and that path usually requires top performer tendencies, top performer, attitude, habits, and things of that nature. So first question for you is, what got you in tech sales? And then second thing is, what got you into leadership within tech sales?
Yeah. Love this. I've told this story many times. Maybe you have already heard it before, and I hope that maybe you have some new listeners who haven't heard this, but I totally fell into it. I went to school in Santa Barbara. I graduated. I went to LA. I worked in reality TV and music video production. When I came back about a year and a half later, all of my friends were super focused on getting into tech sales post college, and a lot of them had done that. And so this was 2014, and a lot of the companies that were popping up, like Procore and Appfolio down in Santa Barbara area, were hiring right out of UCSB. So a bunch of my buddies started working there. I moved back to Santa Barbara, missed it, and LA just really wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And I was bartending and just doing whatever I could to pay the bills, trying to figure out what was next. And the story I always say is I was like pouring up drinks for my friends on Saturdays and Sundays, and they were spending their hard-earned SDR money. And I was like, damn, like this looks kind of fun to be on the other side. And they're like, dude, you got to come work with us. And so they pulled me in. I got an interview. My first manager, shout out Karen Gray, was kind enough to give me the opportunity, and then went and started at Appfolio in their legal branch called My Case. 2014 or 15 it was, and it was a total like workaholics setup. We all lived together, we all worked together. It was just like nonstop, kind of repetitive, and it was some of the best times of my life. But then I realized, all right, I'm kind of burnt out on the role. I think I need to figure out what's next, and so I left. I had been promoted to an AE pretty quickly, but yeah, I thought that maybe could be my own run. Was just like SDR, AE, 2 years max, and then I quit. I went and traveled, did a bunch of other stuff. Tried my own passion projects, not tech related whatsoever. And then I came back to tech because I needed to get paychecks again.
Sure.
And so this was 2019, pre-COVID. I, again, had a year and a half of AE experience. But I thought based off of that, the role that I had and how much I didn't enjoy it, that like I just never wanted to be an AE again. But I knew I could get a job as an SDR somewhere. And so funnily enough, like I mentioned, I'm actually in recruiting now. I thought that might be something I was interested in, but I was like, okay, I'm going to find a really good company with a product that's doing something sweet that is remote. And again, this is pre-COVID because I was back home up in Chico, up in Northern California, and that's not a tech hub. And was like, I'll just get in there early, grow with the company, and figure out what's next for me. Mm-hmm. It could be recruiting, it could be marketing, it could be a handful of other opportunities. And so I found Chili Piper. It was like 18 people. I understood the problem they were solving. They were seed, but like it didn't look as scary as some of the remote companies back then. Some of them looked just like full scams. I was like, I don't even know what the hell's going on here. But Chili Piper looked legitimate. And so I applied there, got that job as an SDR. They asked, hey, why don't you want to be an AE? And I sort of lied. And I was like, I just want to figure out like from the ground up what things look like and like work my way into it. But again, the reality was like, I just didn't want to be an AE. I was like afraid to do it again because I just didn't enjoy it very much. And like, okay, I came in, I killed it. Within about 3 months, they're like, hey, do you want to be the SDR manager? And I was like, maybe. Like, what does it really look like? And they're like, just teach these people. There's 2 other reps with me that were hired about like a month before. Like, just teach them everything that you're doing really well and like go from there. Yeah. And that was sort of like what kickstarted my whole career. Absolutely loved it. Felt super natural. And then quickly started hiring people, and then quickly moved into the director role. And I had like a team of 30 and managers, and it was just like, it felt very natural. But I always tell people I fell into tech sales and I fell into SDR leadership. Neither of them were like an intentional, planned out, path. It just sort of happened through like hard work and good opportunities and good luck and people believing me. And yeah, wouldn't have traded that path for the world. So, hopefully that's succinct.
It's a great story, and it's great to hear. And you know why it's great to hear is because a lot of individuals, there's two foods of thought here for me. A lot of people think it's just this linear career path of like, you go from like SDR to AE to SDR leadership to director, like, and it takes 10 years and it's just this path. But a lot of the times it's a lot more ups and downs. It's peaks and valleys. It's right time, right timing. And, as an SDR leader for a long time now as well, I used to hire bartenders, waiters, waitresses, teachers, physical therapists trying to transition from a certain type of role where they see that there's an opportunity to scale their career. quickly, efficiently, and make good money while they're doing it. It's funny enough, I, similar to you, got burnt out in my career, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to travel. I'm going to travel for a long time now. And what I found is the reason I'm in sales dev leadership, because I have a passion for coaching and teaching people. Like, I have this eagerness to see individuals unlock their dreams, and like being an individual contributor and being the top individual contributor wasn't my why and purpose. Like, seems like similar to you, and a lot of sales dev leaders have that same like internal coaching mindset of like, I just love seeing individuals go from SDR to AE and get crushing AE, or go to whatever role they want to be, but they do well. The one thing that I would say is, like, when you hear your story, I don't think you articulated how hard it was and the work ethic that you had and the habits that you had in order to get those roles. And so can you tell me a little bit more about, like, why did they tap you on the shoulder to become a leader? Why were you successful as an SDR at Chili Piper? What about that led them to believe that you were a good leader? And then go from leader to director. They're not going to give you that title. You have to earn it. So what were those steps to earning that progression in your career?
Yeah, great question. Also, I think I have to give a lot of credit to leaders that I had previously. Again, I shouted out Karen Gray for giving me the opportunity at my case originally at Folio, but she also really taught me what it meant to be a strong leader. And you talked about like coaching and teaching, and like whether it's hiring teachers or yourself, just like enjoying that. And I think we might have talked about this on my podcast. My reason now-ish, a year ago and still today, is to like make money doing this so that I can be a high school history teacher and coach football. Like, that's like what I want to do. So like, I think those things are already in me. And to your point, coaching, teaching, all that is a huge part of like SDR leadership role or any sales leader. But Karen taught me what it like looked like and what it meant to be a great leader, which was like truly believing in your people, enabling them, supporting them. And that doesn't just mean in like the role right now. It just means like as a human being. And so she did a fantastic job. We had like the best culture ever. Still friends with like all of our SDR team and who ended up being AEs. And again, that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So she really like laid down the groundwork for what that looks like. Once I got to Chili Piper, again, I had already done like an AE role. So I knew like what it took to be successful in a sales capacity.
Mm-hmm.
But what I loved about it, and again, it was remote pre-COVID, was like, I always felt pretty burnt out. I think, again, back to the burnout at Folio, because like you'd go to lunch and like we all go to lunch together and we come back and it was like, I hustled from, sometimes we get in at like 6:30, 7 until 1 p.m. for lunch. And I was like, I don't really have a whole lot left to do today. And, I was like, I can't hit up the same account 15 times in one day. So I was like, all right, what do we do? And so there was always this like weird time that like wasn't super productive. And then that's when you like play, ping pong and like.
I was going to say, did you hit the ping pong table or what?
Yeah, we had kombucha and like sometimes they'd have beer on Fridays. So it was like, and again, we were like 23, 24. It was a great time, but it was just like so repetitive. And I felt like there was just so much lost momentum on the second half of the day. And so again, getting to Chili Piper, what I realized was like, what worked best for me was like hustling in the morning, taking a really nice like midday break. I would go and like, I lived with two buddies. One actually was recovering from cancer and getting out of the Navy. So like he was in a very weird spot. We would just hang out. And my other buddy worked catering. So like we would just hang out a lot in the middle of the day and do stuff. But I came back at it at like 6 p.m. and I'd do all my prospecting from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. while we're like watching movies on the couch and just like hanging out. And so like what worked for me was just like understanding what my schedule looked like. And again, I share that because long term, what I would always tell my team, and again, going back to like remote, was like, I don't care like where you're at. I don't care how you get to your number. Like, it's sales. That's what matters the most. And like, I want you to find a schedule that works for you. Not every single person is going to be like, and I hate micromanagement. I was like, I'm not going to be worried that you're at the gym at 1 p.m. We're remote. You go grocery store shopping at 11 a.m. Doesn't matter. Are you crushing your number? Great. Like, do what works for you. And so I think like, again, what I learned from being successful in my own thing, which was like building my own schedule, was like everyone's a little bit different. And I don't want to micromanage people. I just want people to be successful and I want them to get there however works best for them. And so I did put in a lot of work, but again, I think I had a good framework of what success looked like as an SDR. So then when it came to, hey, just teach this to other people and like get them successful, I immediately didn't just say like, do exactly what I'm doing, because I knew it wasn't going to work for everybody. I was just like, hey, here's how I'm doing it. What things are you doing? And then let's find like the commonalities, and then things that maybe aren't working for you. Let's see how I'm doing them. And if it works, like it works. And so I just started to kind of coach them a little bit. And that was like, it was fulfilling for me, like to see them improve. It was awesome. And then the bigger part of like the leadership, and again, I think this was more just like their own trust. And again, now shout out to Nicholas and Alina at Chili Piper because they gave me so much opportunity there. And Michael Tuso, who was like our original, I think his director of revenue was his title, but like he also inspired me a good chunk and taught me a lot as well as like being a tech leader. But yeah, I think like what the biggest takeaway for, and again, now where I'm at today was like, I loved hiring. Like I loved building a team. And so when it got to being like, okay, here's the 2 reps that you're currently working with in coaching and training. Now let's like start to grow the team. I had no idea what I was doing. It was the first time I'd ever hired someone in a like a professional setting. I'd hired people to work at like a candy store when I was like 19, but that was a little bit different. You look at their resume and you're like, okay, yeah, you can sell candy.
Yeah. Do I think you're going to show up?
Yeah. They're all Chico State students. They'd show up hungover. It was a good time as well. But it was just like what I realized I could really control like the team that I wanted. And again, I look at that as like coaching. So like building a football team or building a roster. It was like, okay, I want people who are talented, obviously, but I really want people that I'm excited to work with and that I think, again, are going to make everyone around them better. And I was able to do that in my hiring. And so like my first like 2 or 3 hires were like knockouts. Like, was it luck? I'm sure a lot of it was, but also like I was just looking for people that like fit this mold, which again, knock on wood, worked out for me very well, both at Chili Piper and at Mosaic. And now I'm lucky enough to get to do it full time. But I realized if I hired really well, it would make my life easier. And that was like my initial kind of thought process. And then, I think again, like from a leadership standpoint, I got very lucky, but also I hired very well and they allowed me to just like blossom pretty quickly because everyone was learning from each other. It wasn't all like, I'm the only coach, I'm the only teacher. We had a very collaborative environment and like the things that I still believe make a really strong sales development org or team. I learned quickly, but it was just kind of like, by falling into place and obviously making little mistakes here and there through the experience, but like learning from those and not making those mistakes again going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. That resonates with me. And, like going back to what you first said, that wasn't normal in sales development land where you could just take some time and go do your own thing in the middle of the day. Like that was like, you were cutting against the grain. And what I heard you say though, is like, but getting in at 6 a.m. is not common. Like getting in early and grinding it out and doing all your activities until lunch, like putting in 8 hours of work within those first 5 hours is very, that's the hard work and dedication in doing that. And then getting back online at the comfort of your own time to say, I'm going to prospect. Because if you missed either of those steps, you probably wouldn't have been as successful as you were. And what I've seen in sales dev is a lot of the times individuals who were on your team, Matt, think that you weren't doing anything later in the night, right? And that's where they would have this common like, I can do what Matt does. I can only go until 1 and leave or take my foot off the pedal. But in reality, behind the scenes, you were working your tail off.
Yeah. I always tell people that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, there's a lot of work that great reps do at any level, at the IC level, that like people just don't see.
Totally.
And they don't maybe even talk about it because like it came, not to say naturally, but it wasn't something that I thought of as much of work because it was me on LinkedIn, just prospecting, adding people into lists, like building stuff, structuring it so that tomorrow morning I could just hit the ground running. It's like the same thing as people who, do a little bit of prep on Sundays before a Monday. That's work. But like, you don't like count it sometimes because you're like, I was just on the computer for 2 hours on a Sunday evening, just kind of prepping stuff. But it's like a lot of people don't do that. And then to your point, it doesn't set you up for success that week. But they might leave it out when like they talk about what they're doing in their process. And it's like, that's a huge component.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's way bigger than people think, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So when we look at your career and you've done a lot of hiring, you've done a lot of coaching, what are some of the top qualities, characteristics, traits that you see continuously within top talent?
Yeah. I love talking about this topic. We had an interview with Andrew Froning. He's over at Sierra. I don't know if you know him, but he has a whole framework called Champions for hiring. And it's sweet. It's like an acronym. I like it. There's a lot of things in there that I do agree with, but the ones that always come to mind is like the table stakes, right? It's like, you gotta be super, super, super coachable. I don't know any SDR, any AE who's not super coachable. I know that's why obviously like you look for like athletes, college athletes, maybe people who like music, things like that, where it's like you're working to get 1% better every single day and like you want that feedback. So coachability is like the first and foremost. I don't want anyone with like an ego who thinks
Yep.
that they're going to, they know what's right. It's like, dude, I don't care how great you are at whatever company you came from or whatever it was previously. Like if you're not hungry to get better every day, like you're not going to be a fit on this team. And I don't think you're going to be successful in sales. So that's like, again, table stakes. Another one, curiosity. I want, and curiosity means everything, right? It's curious about you as a human. I want to know, hey, what's up, Julian? How's it going? I want to know, prospect. I'm asking great questions because I'm curious about them and their processes. Whenever it's curious about my own processes and my own workflow. How do I do this more efficiently? How can I get better? How can I get sharper? Curious about the product, the space, the persona. It's literally curious about everything. You're asking questions, and it's like if you're doing that along the interview process, you're probably gonna get a job. So curiosity, another big one, and then the last one, which we've kind of already talked about, and this one's kind of the hardest to figure out. Truthfully, is like their drive. They're like, are they super resilient? Are they like hungry? And like a lot of people say it, but not a lot of people do it. And that can be tied into like a million different ways where you can kind of figure out if they're really driven. But we had a rep that I still to this day, I love this guy. Was one of the top reps at Mosaic, one of the best reps I've probably ever worked with. And I had him at one point in steps of the interview process, and I'd ask people like, oh, like what kind of questions you talk about, blah, blah. And everyone would say the same stuff. They're like, I asked Mauro what made him the best rep at Mosaic, or like what makes him a top rep. And he would say, I just show up every day and I do my job. And they're like, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And a lot of people would be like, yeah, but it didn't really give me anything.
Cool story,
like,
bro.
Yeah. But I'm like, but the further I got away from it, I was like, dude, that's like such a perfect answer. And it's like Bill Belichick used to say on the Patriots or whatever, like, do your job. And it was just like, if everyone shows up and they're doing their job, like we'll be successful. And Mauro, the way he would put it, where he's just like, I show up every day and do my job. I'm like, that is somebody who every single day, again, has a checklist, and he knows what 100% looks like. And he does it every day in and day out. He's super consistent. There's a routine there. And there's all these things, which again, kind of just are encapsulated with, I do my job. I show up every day. And again, 99% of people, they don't do that. They take a day off here. They take half a day off. They show up and they give, 75% on Monday, and then maybe 110% on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, it's 85. It's just like, you show up, you're consistent, and you have a good work ethic, you're curious, you're coachable. Like I'll take shots all day on those people.
Yeah. And it's a consistency within the monotony of sales, right? It's like,
because it's
the
tough.
consistency of like, it's like going back to like the athletics and sales and musicians. It's like that consistency to the basics of what you're trying to do. It's like, yeah, the job isn't complicated. You just got to do it over and over and over and over and have the curiosity to get better. And like a lot of the times what I see in individuals earlier on in their career with its sales dev is they're going to try to reinvent the wheel early on, right? Where it's like after a couple months, they've done well, they're ramping good. And then you see this fall off and cliff because they try to do something new, or they think they're better than the job, or they have this like mindset that kind of shifts them away from just doing the job. Because if they just do the job, they're going to find success.
Agreed. Yeah. It happens all the time.
For sure. Any top books or things that you've read or seen that have helped you throughout your career in terms of staying on track or being a high performer?
Yeah. Great question. And I always say this one as like, not an embarrassment, but like I'm not a huge reader, and it makes me sad. It's one of those things where, again, hopefully I can get to a spot where I have time to coach, to teach, and then like I'm reading a lot, because there's a lot of books that I'm like, oh, I gotta read, but there are a few. And so the first one that always comes to mind, and it's classic, but it's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Love
I read that
book.
It's like, it's the best. And like I read it when I think the first time I was like 16. One of my sisters is a huge reader, so she's like, you gotta read this. Read it. I thought I kind of understood some stuff. I liked it. Then I read it again when I was like 24 or 25, and I was like, holy shit. And it just was a completely different book. And that's what I think I loved so much about it, was like where you're at in your life. It changes so much of that book. And I need to read it again for that same reason. But like the takeaways, right? Just like being genuinely interested in other people. Like so many people just want to share about themselves. And again, curiosity. They're not asking questions about other people. It's like, you can win over a room really quickly if you're interested in people and you're asking, because everyone loves to talk about themselves. And so if you're a good listener and you can ask good questions and you're like interested in them, like they're going to adore you. So like that, I think, is something that I took away. Listening more than you talk, like a lot of stuff, again, that's like very sales related, I think I took away from it. But I love that book, and I've learned a lot. Another one, which isn't necessarily a book, but like both of them obviously have written books, And there are two people that I funnily enough looked up to before I got lucky enough was at Gongs and Gage, which was, I think it was 2019, because I feel like it was before COVID.
Yeah.
And it was I think it was the first. It was like the inaugural Gong, not Engage, sorry, Celebrate, the event. So it was like right before COVID, because I went to it. And there was Mark Roberge, is that how I say it? Roberge? He was talking, and I'm blanking on her name, so I can't do this. I'm gonna actually Google it because it's gonna bother me. I think it was the chief people person at Netflix. Is that right? Patty McCord, chief talent officer at Netflix. So both of them spoke at Celebrate, and they both just like blew my mind. And Patty was somebody that I'd heard about because Netflix had like this culture thing that got leaked when I was at my case. And like I remember reading about it. And again, I was like, oh, this is awesome, because it was a lot of what we just talked about in remote work. It was about like, I don't care how many hours you're spending, and I don't care about like the hard work you put in. It's all about just like the outputs. And it's about like what success metrics are there. And I was always like, oh my God, like I want to be at a company that does stuff like this. I love Netflix. But Patty spoke, and it was similar to like just how you build like a really strong culture and hiring. And then Mark spoke, and it was again very similar about like hiring is the most important thing you can do as a leader.
Talent.
So like those, yeah. So I was like, those two things just like blew my mind. And so I'd like to read both of those, or books by both of them, because everything they say they believe in is like what, again, sort of inspired me when I was getting into leadership, and things that I still believe like ring very, very true.
Yeah. And so I guess for me, it's like talent,
Yep.
finding the right people. And even when you read those books, though, in my opinion, when I unpack like, because Powerful by Patty McCord, Building a Culture of Freedom and Responsibility, like it's a really cool concept. And like, I think even as an individual contributor, if you read the book, you'll understand like what type of team player you should be in a high performing team. Even if you're not a leader that's trying to create culture, you are part of the culture. And I think the culture is built as a part of all of our individual sums, right? And so like the more people that believe that, and if you take that on as an individual contributor, you're going to build a culture around you that's really awesome, right? And so I think those are really good points there. So last question as we wrap up, Matt, I always like to ask this. It's important to me. It's important to the Be Better Tribe community of like, what advice would you give a individual that is just trying to break into the tech sales career, or they're having a tough time in the career, or they're looking to transition? So anyone that's really maybe questioning or having a tough time, like, is there anything that you look back to as like, or, you know, would want to give a quote or just a learning or teaching that could help them through their time, this transition or whatever they're dealing with?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I love. This is what I do now, right? I'm lucky enough to help people break in. I used to do it on the side, like out of just pure passion and again, fulfillment. I've seen this ring true throughout my own career over and over and over. Two parts. One, it's like your network is your net worth. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And the big takeaway there is like constantly meet people. Like just if you're trying to break into something, meet more people in that role, in that space, whatever, and like it's only going to help you. And so the second part of that too is like, don't be surprised by how many people are willing to help. And so like, I think if you're out there, you're trying to break in and you're actually setting up coffee chats with other SDRs, BDRs, AEs, hiring managers, whatever, like that's a great thing. Keep doing it. You're only going to learn more about the space, the companies, the whatever, like it's going to help you. And the second part is like asking for help. Like if you are chatting with these people and you're looking for a mentor, all you have to do is ask. Like people are so willing to help out. And I think a lot of people are just afraid to put themselves out there or get rejected, which again, not going to do great in sales if you're afraid to get rejected. So get past it. But like, the amount of times people have reached out, have asked for help and been surprised by like what comes back, I think is really, really high. And the only way you can break in is truly by like creating these relationships and getting a referral in or getting somebody to believe in you. And like, you just keep taking shots on goal. And like, that's how you get in. It's not by blindly applying and crossing your fingers. It's doing the job of the BDR and breaking in, making some relationships, understanding what's going on at that company because you've had conversations and you've done like your own discovery and that will get you to where you need to be.
I love that. And as we wrap up here, the advice here is network is your net worth. And I love that clear, easy statement. And then be curious, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help because like you said, people are more than willing to help. And I would even go a step further too, is like, find those small connections. I guarantee there's somebody in your network that knows somebody that has an opportunity for you that you're going to crush. And so like use that network and like, don't be afraid to ask people with the small connections. And then at the end of the day, be a good person because people are going to want to help you if you're a good person. And then the second thing is you don't have to wait for a mentor to learn. You could go find information from reading a book, going to an event like Celebrate, going on YouTube and listening to people that have done it and advice that people might give because there's so much information out there. It's just about you going in and absorbing it for sure.
So much content out there, so much free stuff as well. It's like people can show up day one, never done the role, and they could know everything about it because they've done their research, they've watched, they've listened, they've talked. And I think that's something that's really cool about this profession. And a lot of people don't take full advantage of, truthfully.
For sure. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for you joining the Be Better Tribe podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Julian.
Take care.